What's up, internet? Welcome back to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and today we're going to be starting our new series for overcoming challenge mode. Challenge mode can be really fun, but also very annoying if you don't have the proper strategies in mind. The reason why I'm making these videos is because I know that while it has been out for 2 weeks, there's plenty of information out there. I wanted to sort of give my take on what strategies that I think that work out, and in ways that don't require super rare blades to make things work. It does require a bit of a grind and a bit of progression, but that's what challenge mode is. Challenge mode is a cut above the difficulty of the super bosses of the vanilla game, and honestly, there does have to be some more effort if you want to overcome the biggest challenges. So today we're going to be looking at the Reinventing the Gogol. This is a very cool one, a very famous one for being like sort of a reference to previous games in the series while also being a very overwhelming challenge. So like I said, I don't want to focus too much on rare blades, but that's fine because in my opinion, some of the best blades in the entire game are non-random. Now, with the exception being T-elos, the thing about T-elos is that as soon as you beat the game, she enters your random rotation and she'll be able to have a higher chance of probability in comparison to all the other blades in the game. So like, you definitely want to get this character. I know her affinity chart is a bit of a pain to fill out, but it's 100% worth it. T-elos, I suspect, was completely designed with challenge mode in mind. The reason why I say this is because if you make mistakes and you die, she'll increase in damage. If you kill smaller enemies, which are all over the map in challenge mode, then you are going to also see another increase in damage. It's very good, and honestly, that's what we're going to be running with today. Another common blade, or not common blade, but easy to get blade is going to be Poppi QT Pie. There's a little bit of work involved, but once you get into Chapter 5 of New Game Plus, you're going to be able to get her again if you unlock her in Chapter 8 in your first playthrough. And if you use New Game Plus and take advantage of the bards and gormots, you can in fact farm ether shards, kind of taking out the grind a little bit more. So yeah, we're going to be using this build that I'm using. This one over here, it's pretty simple stuff. Critical restore isn't really that much of a priority because we're already going to be using like an avant-garde medal for all the other characters. Critical restore is just a formality for Tora though, so don't have to worry about it too much. And also, there's going to be Vital Charge for her level 1 and 2 specials, since we are going to be playing around with a single orb chain attack setup. In terms of the elemental core, I'm going to be using a dark element because there is a guaranteed dark element weakness for Immortal Heir Carlos, so we definitely want to take advantage of that. One thing I want to point out is that I won't be using Petroka for this particular one to take advantage of the elemental weakness, so what we're going to do is that we're going to unbound Petroka right now, and we're just going to be using Shulk and Fiora. Shulk and Fiora are extremely broken blades, and honestly, you are guaranteed to get them, so there's no reason to not have them. You can't fill out their affinity charts very easily because you do have to beat the harder challenges, including the one we're about to do right now, but fill them out to the best of your ability, and then you're going to have a pretty good time of clearing out all of challenge mode because they're just that good. Now, in terms of the accessory builds that we're running, I'm going to actually give myself a restriction, give myself a little bit lower. I would recommend going to level 88 before you do these challenges. The reason why is because if it is a challenge that restricts your level, they're going to reduce it for you, but you want to have as much dexterity so you can make sure you can land your hits, as much agility as possible, and of course, as much HP as possible. Since that's not going to be the case though, I will be sacrificing one of my accessory slots for a titanium vest. I'm going to be running a burst symbol too, since we are running with chain attack builds, and an avant-garde medal, which is nigh on mandatory since we have no healers on our team, unless of course if you count Fiora, but no one does that. And then, of course, same thing goes for Morag, exact same build. And then Tora, since he already has a sort of avant-garde medal built into Poppi QT Pie, we could just go ahead and do a critical symbol since it works quite nicely. So yeah, if you have an Adenine or a Petroka, feel free to also put them onto Rex's loadouts. I would recommend having Fiora on Rex because she's just so much better on him than everyone else. Like, she's good all around, but just that much better on Rex. And if you want, just use Adenine or Petroka to increase the elemental weakness, since this is one of the few fights where we can take advantage of that. Now, in terms of the aux cores, pretty simple stuff. Feel free to use night vision. I'm actually going to be not using night vision because I want to give myself the restriction, but for those of you guys, feel free to replace Hunter's Chemistry with a night vision. I'm giving myself Hunter's Chemistry because Fiora does give extra critical rate for the entire party at max affinity, and the more I can take advantage of that, the better. Not to mention that I gave Tachyon chips to both T-elos and Poppi QT Pie for that increased critical hit damage. So anyways, yeah, that'll be pretty much the Ox Core builds. It's mainly just increasing the damage of the specials more than anything. Didn't really think about it too much. Fast Blade Switch would be pretty nice, but I don't anticipate using Shulk's vision mechanic very much. But if you feel like doing that, then feel free. There's nothing stopping you guys of doing that one. But most of the time, I just want to have the Fast Blade Switch for the purposes of what if I need to, you know? And we are going to be going over emergency cooldowns too. The T-elos spell, this is the tried and true. This is my baby, essentially. Outdoor attack up, affinity max attack special level 2, no explanation needed. She's just really, really good. So here we go, we're gonna go ahead and reinvent the Gogol. Alright, let the games begin. So this is going to be a little bit fast-paced, so feel free to slow things down for me. What's going to happen here is that as soon as the battle begins, I immediately want to start mashing left on my D-pad so that we focus down one enemy at a time. The reason why we're doing this is because I know it's easy to get swarmed. Not to mention that while I'm doing my attacks, I want to make sure that my party members are also doing specials, because if you do a special with a party member, then they will be shielded and they'll have reduced damage. They won't necessarily count as a block, but the reduced damage does help your survivability, especially when you're being swarmed. You want to prioritize using a level 2 special with Fiora, since it's AoE and you want to hit as many people as you can, but if you feel like you're below half health or going to be dying very soon, feel free to fire off a level 1 special to give yourself the damage reduction, and then again continue spamming left on your D-pad to make sure that you're going to kind of enjoy as much of that topple, or not topple, the dog pile as best as you can. So again, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I tried firing off the level 1, but I couldn't get it out in time. But that's okay, we have really strong party members, and again, a death for me is going to be more damage from Morag, so that's what we're trying to go for right now. Tora's gonna pick me up. Luckily, the unbeatable kicked in. I have to be really careful of this part, so what I'm gonna do is just kind of fire off specials as best as I can. Remember, if you score excellence on your QTE events, you're going to increase the amount of party gauge that you end up building. This is really, really useful and very important for clutch situations, which we're trying to go for right now. We've blown all of our unbeatables. Things are really, really not going in our favor right now, but that's okay. As long as you constantly have a bar of meter, again, constantly building up your attacks, building up your specials, making sure you can get the excellence, you are going to see a return for that one. So you see, just like that, it only took 2 button presses and we're already at 1 bar, and now it's just a matter of building up my abilities as best as I can. You'll actually notice I didn't even have an Omega Drive on Fiora. Omega Drive on Fiora is extremely good. And honestly, don't be afraid to, like, if you've beaten, if you burned all of your unbeatables at this point of the game, don't worry, that was actually probably the hardest wave out of all of them. This next one is with the Wolf Master, I believe, and this one actually isn't that bad. It's just a matter of kind of going through all of your attacks, making sure that you can build up your special as soon as possible. Remember, level 2 special on Fiora, try to do that as fast as you can. If you're already level 99, feel free to switch out for an Omega Drive, since that is extremely useful on Fiora, or use a, what's it called, the Carbon Bangle, or the Carbon Gauntlet. The Carbon Gauntlet will increase the amounts of special recharge that you get for every time you cancel your attacks. That's extremely good on Fiora, and to make sure that things stay safe. But again, we are trying to restrict ourselves as best you can. You're going to have a much smoother ride if you're at level 99, I'll tell you that right now. Okay, so yeah, Wolfmaster wasn't that difficult. You probably didn't see much of it. Essentially what I did was just, again, focus down on the big guy, mashing left on that D-pad, making sure that everyone would die as quickly as possible. And while I'm mashing left on the D-pad, I'm also mashing Y on my face buttons. The reason why I'm doing that is because constantly spamming the Screw Edge. Screw Edge is extremely useful. Hang on, I'll just probably show it to you guys. Screw Edge is an AoE crit recharge, and it's the reason why Fiora is so effective at challenge mode. So yeah, like, just do things like this. If you see that there's enemies isolated, feel free to also fire off a special. They can build up their special really, really quickly. So yeah, those are all the waves. It's a little bit of a sort of a rush at times. It seems that we're not really doing much, but yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video is that you should have an earth element. I'm gonna use Wulfric instead of Petroka. I took out Petroka because, you know, maybe you guys don't have that, but you are guaranteed to get Wulfric, so we're going to be using him. He won't be doing very much damage for us, we just want him to build an orb. So I have 2 dark elements on my team, the T-elos and the Poppi QT Pi, and then Wulfric is gonna fire off the level 3 for me, so this is what's gonna happen. Now, the thing about Immovable Air Carlos is that he has upgraded abilities of, what's his name, Immovable Gonzalez and Territorial Rotbart. The Venom Cloud, not only does it apply Stench, it also applies Doom. If you predict that's going to happen, feel free to use Shulk or any character that has a sort of, what's it called, a debuff cancel, and then that should be good. But of course, that does require a bit of prediction. You can't just switch in when that happens. You do have to predict it. So yeah, here comes that Venom Cloud. The Doom is going to come in. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to this, see if he gives me the debuff cancel. So like I said, you can't do that immediately. But that's okay. So then the other ability I wanted to mention is the Feral Beat. It's going to reduce your party gauge, and it's also going to just do a lot of damage to you while sealing the driver. It's very, very annoying, but honestly, that's just the method of the game. So I switched out of Fiora. I anticipated dying. He is guaranteed to do Venom Cloud fairly early on, meaning you will get hit with the Doom. So I want to make sure that I can at least keep my affinity for when that happens. Alright, so what's going on now is that I'm going to be waiting for 2 stages of a dark combo, if I can. So here we go. I have Tora doing the first stage, and then when Morag does hers with T-elos, I'm going to switch over to Wulfric. When I switch over to Wulfric, he's going to do the Meteor, and that will be a full party gauge for me as soon as Morag gets this done. And unfortunately, a Feral Beat's going to happen. That is going to happen constantly, but this is the early stage of the fight. It's fairly easy to predict Immovable Air Carlos at the early stage. It's when he gets to the second stage where things become a little bit more hairy, so keep that in mind. Okay, so now we have the third stage, and now it's just up to me to switch over to Wulfric. Wulfric is going to do the honors to give us the orb. We want a single orb setup. If you have an orb master on your team, you can actually do the single orb setup a lot faster, but you do miss out on a bit of damage. You see, we didn't really do very much damage over here, but that's okay. So, again, all we want is just the meter, or the orb. Okay, so here's kind of my little tip to you guys, is that before you fire off a special, or before you fire off a chain attack, make sure you get to level 3 at max affinity with Fiora. The reason why you want to do this is because if you have that level 3 attack, you're going to be able to build it to a level 4, which will leave you invincible for after. You have no meter to fall back on to revive your party members, and he is going to use a Wild Wave. Wild Wave that he has is very, very powerful, and it will result in a wipe almost no matter what. I'm pretty sure there's some scenarios where it won't turn out, like let's just say all the unbeatables happen, but since we ran out of unbeatables, so this is exactly what we're left with. And here we go, Immovable Air Carlos, just going through the single orb setup. Pretty easy stuff. Again, we died a bunch of times and we killed a bunch of enemies, so T-elos is going to get max damage almost no matter what, which is really, really good. So here we go. And just like that, we are half health. All that's left for you as a player to do is just stand still while the level 4 builds up. As soon as that Wild Wave kicks in, you want to take really, really good care of that one. Alright, so I did fire off a couple of shots. Here comes that Wild Wave. As soon as you see the text appear beneath the health bar, you want to press A to do that level 4 special. Try to score an excellence if you can for this one. It's a little bit tricky to understand the timings as it is for all QTEs, but yeah, this is exactly what we're trying to do. Okay, so the next one is going to be, unfortunately, due to the fact that we did use the level 4, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do 2 levels of the orb, and then Wulfric, because he's an earth element, he'll be able to do the final stage. So here we go. Also, you can see right now that Carlos has a dark element weakness, so this is going to be really, really good for us. And you're going to see why I would recommend having an Adenine or Patroka. Patroka preferably, just because Patroka does come with the earth element, but yeah. Okay, so here comes the Fiora. And then, as soon as you see that full meter, you want to mash plus. He is automatically dead. There is nothing he can do about it now. So I'm going to go ahead and just use Fiora first. As you can see, he does have the dark element, and that previous chain attack that we did brought him to half health. So now that we can take advantage of an elemental weakness, we're going to be seeing even more. Not really so much with T-elos, since T-elos already hits cap damage even without the elemental weakness, but Poppi QT Pie is going to be doing a number, and that's why we love this girl so much. Yeah, have Fiora again, she's earned it. Okay. So yeah, that pretty much does it for Immovable Air Carlos. As long as you can take advantage of your invincibility cooldowns and predict when he's going to do the Wild Wave, really that's his most dangerous attack, I find. If you have a debuff cancel on a Poppi QT Pie, then you can guarantee that Tora's going to survive. Just make sure he's not doing a special while the Venom Cloud is coming out. It's very, very simple, but it is a very difficult trick to overcome, and it's the one thing that stands between you and the way of ultimate victory. So yeah, that's pretty much it with Immovable Carlson Reinventing the Gogol. I know this gives a lot of people a lot of challenge. To be fair, I have all S+ blades on my team. You won't be seeing as much damage with Fiora, but you've seen that Fiora didn't contribute too much to the chain attacks herself. It was mainly on the T-elos and the Poppi QT Pie, and honestly, these are the things that you can use, the non-random blades, to overcome these challenges. Anyways, guys, this wasn't my personal best time. I believe my personal best was like 6 minutes and something, because I used a completely different build. But again, for those of you guys that don't have that yet, this is the strategy that I use, and hope that you guys can take advantage of it to the fullest. So guys, thanks very much for joining us, and as usual, I will see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.